Evening and welcome to episode 18 of Lawfully Chaotic. I'm here with salutations. I'm here with my excellent co-host, Jason Baldrick.
Fuck off! Forgot I did
Still
boys
can't-
with the B.
I still can't get my directions right.
It's
Welcome.
the
Thank you for joining us. Jeff, you win this week. Thank you for joining us in chat. Shunjin, I will be sending you a t-shirt. Let me know what you want. Anyway, tonight we are talking about the state of the game. We're going to have a basic general conversation about what's going on in game design these days within the industry. Jason has done a shit ton of research. I have not.
Per usual.
So he will provide all of the pertinent information, and I will just kind of be a dick and refute everything that he says.
That's fair.
Which is that's fair. All right, good enough. Before we get started, announcements. Check out. I'm gonna go for rant cam. I still need to do a graphic for that. Rant cam. I have a Stream Deck that is not getting enough love. That would be perfect for the first button on the Stream Deck is rant cam. Hey, 3 Miles. Thank you for joining.
What happened to your microphone?
Oh, am I still on?
Your audio disappeared.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Am I good now?
Still disappeared.
Can you hear
Or is
me?
it my audio? Hold on.
Could be
No,
your
I think it
audio.
might be. Hold on. Maybe it's my audio.
Did you unplug your headphones?
No.
Can everybody
weird.
else hear me? Chat, can you hear me?
I don't know what happened to the audio. I can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yes. Wow.
All right.
Well, this is a first.
Something came unplugged. Maybe?
I can't believe our $100,000
There
studio.
we go.
I was going to say I can't believe our $100,000 production studio setup failed on us.
My $1.99 extender cord got
Yeah,
loose.
right,
I don't
yeah.
know why.
Is it plugged in?
Right?
Well, first thing I want you to do is unplug your modem and plug it back in, and then
your 1200 baud modem.
exactly. Hey, Callista, thanks for joining us. Okay, so anyway, yes, announcements. I'm going to go first because I just posted the new Fantasy Towns Volume 1, 2, and 3 from
Nice.
Jason on the Play RPG and Company shop, in addition to 2 new occult adventures, the Orb of Mysteries and the Serpent's Burrow.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yes. So check those out. So we now have 3 or 4 occult cases up there, and
Yep.
5 volumes of Fantasy Towns.
Yeah, and I
In
just
addition to that, go
got
ahead.
started on my City Guide series.
Awesome.
Where each book is going to be a very detailed city that people can use in both fantasy or occult Victorian era. So
That's awesome.
I'm doing both kinds.
Excellent.
As well as I'm doing called Tome of Heroes, which is
Okay.
going to be an NPC series for you to use NPCs in games, narrative player characters, as we like to rehash things here. So
Registered.
yeah,
now.
I'm having a lot of fun writing. It's been really fun.
I'm loving the stuff you're sending over. It looks fantastic. So check it out. Those are up. I also am going to post digital downloads of my magic items in volumes. There will be 5 items per volume. So I'm going to provide those also. So we are slowly but surely filling up. Surely, not surely. We are slowly but surely filling up the store with digital content. So check it out because it's awesome stuff. Okay, enough of that.
And
Jason,
great t-shirts, great stickers. If you're into
Oh,
vinyl
well,
stickers, and
thank you very much.
t-shirts
Yes,
are freaking amazing.
thank you. Appreciate
We
that.
got the publications. If you're looking for a really cool set of the flickering fire plumes, freaking awesome. I've made bigger sets for myself, but I also have a set that you did for me, and I still use it in my games. It's pretty cool.
And I love when you post pictures of that because it looks awesome. If I don't say so myself, but it mostly looks awesome because the way you use them. So, hey, Paradox, thank you for joining us too. Yeah, so like I said, we are slowly filling up the store, which is awesome. So, Jason, what other announcements do you have? I know you were running how many tables now? 70, 80?
I know, right?
Still don't know how you do it, man.
Yeah, I'm running 8 pay-to-play tables and 2 of my branded tables. 2 of my branded tables are kind of on a bit of summer break. I've got a couple players that have to get some stuff done that they're doing for the summer. So what we decided to do was play some Candela Obscura. So we've had a couple sessions with that, and I'm almost completely full on setting up my pay-to-play Candela Obscura game. So I'm pretty excited about that. Really loving the system. The players really love the system too. Both my Saturday games came to a conclusion, so I do have my Saturdays back. But I'm running Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday are my pay-to-play ones. So,
well, there we have it. Great skill and finesse. That is awesome. I may jump into one of your Candela games because I'm really interested. You said you really like the system, right?
Oh, I'll give you 2 key reasons why I really like the system. It gives all the action economy back to the players. I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
Not only are they controlling it, but it's so easy for them to see the highs and lows of using it that it's really fun watching them just explode with the action economy, and it completely changes the narration. As a GM, I love it because the pace of the game is a lot more interesting. I don't have to worry about initiative. I'm responding to their narrative action economy, which means I'm much more free to write a lot more smaller creative opportunities, but they're writing the outcomes in their own minds, and the level of failure and success is controlled by the action economy exclusively. I didn't think I could have so much fun with a dice pool system. It's definitely making me rethink a lot, and it's also really getting the blood boiling about the ideas related to skill pools and developing skill systems, because I find with Obscura, the game itself is so lore rich and fun for the players. It's a lot easier now for me to create the more fun stuff like special skills and special things that they want to do within the group. Yeah, Paradox, it really is. It is a true RPG system. There's out in the culture space, there's a lot of people that have 2 different interpretations of storytelling. A lot of the older school thought is storytellers are people that control the narrative from beginning to end. I'm in the newer school of thought that storytellers are guides. We just help. We don't tell, we don't railroad, we don't purposely, make it the story that we think is in our mind. We absorb the story that the players are telling, and we just become their guides. Because it really is a conflict out there between the different generations of GMs and DMs. I've got one half of the people saying, nope, you're not a storyteller. Storytellers do this. And I'm like, sure. 40 years ago, that was a good definition.
Interesting. So what's the group that's telling you that, no, you're wrong, storytellers?
A lot of the older generational DMs. And I don't like the names.
So like you and me, basically. Our generation?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
That's surprising because I actually I agree with you wholeheartedly that the role of a GM or a storyteller has changed a lot.
It's not the original definition that everyone's been kind of adhering to. It's a very different definition now, and I like to use it.
That's
sure,
right.
I call myself a guide, but I prefer the name storyteller because it's just I like the flow.
I think that I don't know. It seems to me that that's kind of a short-sighted or a narrow-minded point of view. Because I think as the games have matured, as the community has matured, so has the role of the game master. So yeah, I actually agree with you 100%. I think it is to guide, to guide the story along.
Yeah.
So
So
so surprising.
tonight, did you have anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, that's the perfect way to jump in to what is going
So my
on.
voyage of discovery since we are officially halfway through the year 2023, I spent yeah, exactly. I spent a solid probably a good 20, 30 hours of research, and I really enjoyed it because it's also allowing me to kind of pull things into our future game reviews and other things we're doing. But state of the game, obviously, I think we should start with the two top, labels in the industry for now, and then I consider Critical Role Darrington Press number 3 right now, to be honest with you, from a standpoint of influence and a lot of the new shit they have coming out. But WotC,
I'm assuming WotC and Pathfinder are Paizo.
WotC and Paizo. So two big news things for them this year. So for WotC, it's been the ongoing drops for D&D 1, which they still seem to think they're going to call it that. The third-party community doesn't think that's going to happen. They think it's just going to be 5.5 or what they're going to be calling the final edition in general. So that's one of the big
Cyper or Cipher?
Yeah, I don't know that one.
I don't either.
One of the big things they did, they dropped a huge packet today of 7 new classes. So if you have D&D Beyond, go out to the One D&D publication.
I didn't.
D&D Beyond, they dropped.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they dropped a big fat 7 class. It's a lot of pages, a lot of.
What are the classes?
Rules.
Subclasses or like full-on classes?
Full-on classes. Well, subclasses, I guess. I mean, the main classes are never really going to change. So, but I think they threw some monk stuff in there and some other things.
Oh, so okay, so it's subclasses.
Yeah, I believe so. For Paizo, they finally did their final edit of Orc. So their final copy and final edit of their new open license is official. So if you're a Pathfinder fan and you want to continue writing Pathfinder content at the RPG Guild and Cobalt Press, Paizo's made it a lot easier now. They have a much more defined and user-friendly final cut, their final edition of the Orc license, which I think is kind of important. Number 3, Critical Role, Darrington Press. August, we're expecting Daggerheart to drop, which I think is going to be a big deal. We recently did our review on Candela Obscura. We also did our review on To the Last Gasp. So I think, post Ukatoa board game release, recognizing their inconsistencies and their lack of creativity in that, and now we're seeing these 3 new releases out of Darrington Press. I think Critical Role's finally kind of finding their stride.
Yeah, I think Candela. I don't know if is there a specific release date.
No, it's still it's still technically pre-release now. It's just the quick start guide, a handful of pre-generated characters. So I don't actually know when their release date is. I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't either, because the book is not done because I've been working on artwork for it.
Right.
So
right.
I know for a fact it's not done. But I think it is getting close. And no, I do not actually know the release date. I'm just not telling you. If I did know it, I still wouldn't tell you because I'm not allowed to. However, I really don't know when it is. But I would imagine that it is getting close, and I would imagine that it is going to be before Daggerheart, because as the speculation has shown, that is kind of the lead-in to Daggerheart.
I don't even know yet, because they're not dropping any hints for Daggerheart, and Um,
I think just maybe just kind of as a play test, you know.
yeah.
I mean, they're obviously serious about Candela. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think it may be, my guess is just my opinion, is that it may be serving as sort of like a play test for Daggerheart. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, but they were very adamant in their state of the gate, or the state of Darrington Press, when they were like the state of Critical Role, that Daggerheart was still going to adhere to the traditional fantasy theme,
Mm-hmm.
but it was going to be specifically character narrative, and character driven, which tells me that while they may introduce some aspects of Obscura, I think they're introducing a completely new system. They're probably going to give it an engine name like, Cortex system, and
Mm-hmm.
Apocalypse system. Like, all of them kind of have their core system that they do. But we won't know till August. They're going to demo it at IndieCon. So if you're fortunate enough to go to IndieCon, check them out. I
feel like you feel like flying out to Chicago. We'll drive to Indy together.
No, Callista's actually going out to Minnesota, I think, to visit family with Sebastian. I just can't afford to take that much time off. I'm a self-employed working person, so it's hard to take that kind of time off. I was hoping to, but it's just too many back-to-back things going on.
Well, if you can fly to Indy, I'll drive there and meet you. Just saying.
Just saying.
We could wear our Lawfully Chaotic t-shirts and sign autographs and shit.
And shit.
And shit.
And legit shit.
Okay, so that's number 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, I could speak volumes on WotC, but I have, and
I'm really, so 2 other really good producers I'm enjoying. There is the Free League. They are bringing us Walking Dead RPG soon.
I know
I'm
you're
really looking forward to that dropping. The artwork is amazing.
I can imagine.
I haven't done much of the pre-release reading yet, which I'm going to try and do over the next couple weeks. Also, Evil Hat, which hosts another game I'd like to try to get going, which is the Alien RPG.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that one.
Talk to Gentleman Game Master Malcolm Trotter. In fact, we should have him on the show. I'll reach out to him tomorrow because I know that he's run a number of Alien campaigns, games, and the feedback has been really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start digging into that because I'd like us to do a review and see what that system is like.
All right. Well, maybe we can get him on next week or the week after then.
Yeah, I was taking a look. I still recommend going to Kickstarter. Just go to Kickstarter, browse what's out there. I still believe
totally.
In that platform, there are a lot of excellent creators out there. Walking Dead got its start there with the League. Evil Hat, Aliens.
Yeah.
I've been also delving into some Star Trek RPG. If you've never watched Captain Courageous before, he does a lot of retro stuff on YouTube. Give him a review. If you're an old school generational player, he does really, really excellent between like 30 and 45-minute deep dives into a lot of OSR content, and he does a pretty good job at it. And he's got a good pace. He breaks it down. It's a lot of fun. So when I was watching his episode about that, his Star Trek episode got me thinking about our earlier conversation about the new Star Trek New Worlds, Strange New Worlds, which is balls out the best Star Trek since first season Gen.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of seeing if I can find a cool rule set for that.
Who's got the rights? Who's got the rights to Star Trek right now? Game.
As far as I could tell, it's still a license through FASA. I don't know who has it.
Does FASA? FASA doesn't exist anymore.
They don't, but I don't know where that license went.
Huh.
And I don't know. That's going to be part of my research when I start trying to figure out what happened to Star Trek RPG.
If that
because-
license is floating around in the ether, we should buy. We should buy that.
Yeah,
license.
I don't know. But it got me also thinking with the popularity of a couple of the Star Wars drops that we've had with Andor and my favorite, Star Wars in a long time, Rogue One.
Yes.
I've been reading some of their new rule expansions because Edge is still doing Star Wars RPG.
Okay.
And they came out with a new Star Wars expansion rule set that I'm going to dig into because I still love the Star Wars world. I mean, it's
I've always been, I've always enjoyed Star Trek. I've never been a Trekkie. I am a diehard Star Wars fan. I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, riding my bike to the corner convenience store with my friends and buying Star Wars cards and going home, and we'd spent the entire afternoon on the driveway trading Star Wars cards. I remember that like it was yesterday. So
that's a good transition because on the Magic the Gathering Stormfront,
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings and retro art.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings
from Saul Zentz and
yes.
Bakshi.
And which, if people don't know, one of the original. So Lord of the Rings, there was The Hobbit.
Yes.
And there was the Lord of the Rings, and then there was the Return of the King. The Hobbit and Return of the King did it in that kind of clandestine traditional animation of its time. What was amazing about Lord of the Rings, not only did they use some of the most amazing artwork in the world,
rotoscoping.
Rotoscope.
Yeah.
And Rotoscope
phenomenal.
made a brief comeback recently with some other animation series in Prime, and I forget the name of it. Lord, if you've never seen it, Lord of the Rings, the original animation in Rotoscope is just it's the same style that they did Fire and Ice, which I thought was a fabulous way of doing it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm surprised that don't forget Catalyst. We've said a lot about Catalyst.
Yeah, we talked about Catalyst and BattleTech and Shadowrun. I think
I'm surprised that they haven't picked up Star Trek. If that IP.
I looked all over their website and couldn't find any mention of it.
Yeah.
So I haven't really had a lot of ability. But if you're an Avatar fan, there's an Avatar RPG out there as well.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's done by Playroll, and they do a pretty decent mixed bag of games, but they have Avatar Legends RPG. So if you're definitely into that.
Let me ask you, are all of these ancillary games that are coming, these are all on their own systems, their own core systems, right?
They would have to be, because they don't really mention what system. I think it depends on who releases it, right? So if you're Evil Hat, you're using, I think they use Apocalypse, maybe.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I know there's Cortex. I know that there's, it seems like there's a company and then a publishing house, right? And then that publishing house goes after the licensing of games, and then they develop systems to use and then to produce these games. So I think what we're getting a lot more of now, as our generation ages and as millennials are, the most numerous generation that we have right now. They're, they're over 90 million strong in their demographic. So huge influence on how game design and game development is beginning to orchestrate around their generation of growth. So you're getting a lot more sci-fi, you're getting a lot more apocalyptic, you're getting a lot more of these different systems that are coming out. But, they still all base their kind of contention with one exception. D&D is still that D20 system, that's gone through many iterations. But everybody else use a kind of variation to GURPS, right? Degrees of success and degrees of failure.
Dice pools?
Some use dice pools, some use percentages, but fundamentally a lot of the newer systems are much more narrative style systems, and they're using success and failure in a much more robust and kind of different way than the D20 system
So
manages its system.
let me ask you a question. Since you've done all this research, are you finding? I don't know if finding is the right word. Are you feeling that it seems like a major trend in games is moving towards a more narrative style?
Yes, I would
Is that
agree with
fair
you.
to say? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
What I find interesting on that point, 2021 was the most successful crowdfunding of TTRPG
well,
crowdfunding.
that's no surprise at all because everybody's
Right
stuck
at the
inside and had
tail
nothing
end
else
of
to do.
COVID, and like right at the tail end of the height of COVID,
Mhm.
and then 2022, when we're just coming out of COVID, and here we are, technically officially out of COVID.
Right.
In 2021 we saw the return of the Seventh Sea game, and if you're into pirates, Return of Seventh Sea, fucking amazing pirate system, and that's what I'm really liking about what's coming out of all these newer game houses now, is this continuing theme of creating new worlds for people to play in, leaving fantasy behind for once and just saying, hey, there's a lot of sci-fi out there, there's a lot of historical, there's a lot of places you can go towards, and I thought that was really interesting, that was a really interesting analytic, that in 2021, best crowdfunding year they ever had.
Mm-hmm. So, and that is interesting. So now you've sparked a second question, but I'm going to finish my first train of thought. So, okay, so it's fair to say that game design is moving towards a more narrative style, and that people are trying to divorce themselves from the binary, if you will, D20 system, where you fail or you don't fail, and utilizing dice pools and degrees of success, as you said. Do you feel that moving towards this narrative style of play is making mechanics less important or less interesting, or both? I personally feel that, to me, and this is a generational thing, but I personally feel like, we've talked a little bit about this. I don't feel that narrative style story play and mechanics have to be mutually exclusive. Okay. I feel that you can have a narrative driven game and still rely on mechanics, because to me, and this is just me, to me, one of the best aspects of playing role-playing games is the fate of the dice and the randomness of the dice. Okay. No matter how you do something, we've all been there. You're trying to stealth past some guards and you fucking step on a thumbtack or a board creaks, or it's that chaos theory, if you will. And to my knowledge, okay, everybody loves rolling dice. Yeah, rich narrative and mechanics, they can absolutely, in my opinion, live together. So I think that mechanics still deserve a very high place in game design, okay? Because I think that random factor, we're playing a game, okay? I think that random factor really, really, introduces and continues to introduce that unpredictability in the story.
I think the greatest challenge that all of these games have is the evolution of the person running the game, right? That still is the main challenge. The person running the game is looking at two basic realities of game style. There's mechanically driven games and then narrative driven games. The major question you have is, what is a style of play that's going to help draw in more people that run it? Because right now there's such, it's a desert out there for people that run games. Do we
a desert for people that run games and trying to find players, or a desert for players trying to find?
Yeah, DMs, GMs. They're just not enough. Okay. Even in the remote world, there's still not enough.
That blows my mind.
And the challenge is that you've got to start young. So if you've got to start young, do I want to get involved in a heavy mechanic game, or do I want to get involved in a much more narrative game? I think as the demographic is shifting towards trying to attract younger players, they have to take a look at the way younger players are getting involved in consoles and PC games and figure out a way to create a system that gives them that same level of interest, but still have a lot of, ease of use, right?
And see, therein lies the problem for me. And this is where I put on my old man hat. And I'll, again, my opinion, but I'll say, like, role-playing games, the bridge between role-playing games and computer games, okay, is obviously the connection is obviously there, but I still see it's two different things. I don't want to reproduce what I'm doing on the computer in a role-playing environment.
That's not my point. My point is how do we teach and transition? How do we help people who get bored with their consoles and computer games?
Okay.
How do we teach them to transition over to RPGs and TTRPGs?
Right? I would argue that it would actually, narrative story play, Jeff is obviously very adamant about this, and I agree with him 1,000%. Again, they don't have to be separate.
Right, but here's the part that we're missing about mechanics. Okay.
Yeah.
Narrative's the easiest part of the game.
I disagree. For a game master?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I disagree, because good narrative game master is that's a talent. You can learn mechanics. You can learn storytelling, but I think there's a lot of talent there. Also, yeah, that too. Have people interact with humans. Yeah, I would argue that the way to get people from consoles into role playing is give them mechanics, give them something concrete that you can say, right, here, learn how to play this game. The problem
is mechanics is getting confused with the more important aspect of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanics is a simple mathematical assumption of how you resolve interactions of the game.
Yeah.
They're common throughout every single game system. They all have
Correct.
them.
Yes.
Right? What every game system doesn't have is a good action economy. Every game doesn't have a good economy for those mechanics to work within. So a lot of times what you get is these super crunchy, super bloated games that want you to do 20 things to jump over a stream, right? So you have the narrative style, and then you have the mechanics that support the narrative style. But deep in the mechanics, you have to have an action economy that makes sense, because the action economy is what's going to make it either easy or hard for the mechanics to be applied.
Okay, so this proves my point, okay? Because if you have a good set of mechanics that incorporate a storytelling style and a good action economy.
We'll never agree on that, because mechanics are a fixated RNG output. It's either a random number generator, it's a formula that you apply to influence the random number generator. Like, mechanics are mechanics. The engines.
I think I think our definitions of mechanics are different.
Yeah, to me, action economy is what makes a game, and an action economy is not mechanics.
See, I consider that part of the mechanics.
Yeah. See,
when I say mechanics, I mean, give me a rule book. How does this game work? Okay. So I guess in a way,
a rule book is all three. A rule book is the narrative, the mechanics, and the action economy.
Okay, so in reality, I think we do agree. I just define action economy and part of the rules of a game as explaining this is how to be a good storyteller. I don't think you can dump an unseasoned younger player into like a Vampire the Masquerade or a Candela type game and say, here, have at it. They're not going to know what the fuck to do.
I mean,
and this is where I go back to my argument that I think the mechanics, if they're well done and they allow for narrative play as part of what makes that game work, then I think that's an easier way to get those new players.
I can run you through a 3-hour session and you'll never roll a dice.
Okay. So here's the thing. I've run D&D sessions where we've never rolled a die. It's been all role playing, which is great. Those have been some of my best sessions.
So to me, action economy is the balance between the available rules, the narrative style, and the general ecosystem of the game that allows the game to move forward.
Okay, so basically, so to translate that into normal people speak, is you're saying that the action economy has to allow for more than just roll this die, do this, do this, do this. It basically opens it up to interpretation and levels of success, like you've said.
Well, to a certain degree, the action economy helps us help the players. Like if you look at Cortex, you look at Apocalypse, you look at Illuminati, you look at a lot of these ones, to a certain degree, GURPS. The only unique thing about GURPS is, high is bad, low is good. So they have a different way of degrees of success and failure. The reason why I think to our earlier conversations we had about dice pools creating a much more robust action economy, the randomness of their roll isn't the end of the mechanic like it is in D20, right? So in D20 you have a DC 14, and what a lot of us newer style game masters are doing, Brendan does it, I know Matt does it, but I don't know if he's ever actually admitted he does it. But we do degrees of success and failure against that DC, right? Okay. So we're already using a sliding scale because we don't like the action economy in the D20 system that says apply a DC. If they roll it and beat it, they beat it. If they roll underneath it, they don't beat it. So it's successful if it's over, it's a failure if it's not. And they define that action economy as that's all there is. You either succeed or you fail.
3 miles, I don't mean to interrupt, but that right there, does that exist, or did you just make that up?
No, I think he's talking about Brendan's custom rule.
Roll for emphasis.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I don't know to me. That's new to me, but I fucking love that. That's amazing.
There's a 2-page rule system that he added to his D&D game, where he does a sliding scale of failures and successes, which I've been doing forever. Well. Yeah, that's the sliding scale that Brendan.
Brendan uses. That's awesome.
Even when I was in 1st and 2nd edition, I didn't like the action economy back then. I didn't like the way that they weren't allowing the players to really have more degrees or opportunities of successes and failures, because it was slowing the game down. It was causing the mechanics to get too heavy. And you were going to a table and then to a D100, and then you were going to another rule and another rule, simply because the action economy wasn't defining something for you at scale.
Okay. So that's where
all that comes from.
Me. I do not disagree with you in theory. Okay. I agree with that.
Sorry. Let me just finish my point on the dice pool system.
Yeah.
So as RNGs, random number generators in a D20 system, are finite and absolute, dice pool systems tell you, okay, so my character has 2d6, and one of my d6s is special. So I roll, and I roll a 2, a 3, and my special dice is a 3. It's a shitty outcome. However, because I used my special dice, I get something back for using my special dice.
Mhm.
So I failed, but the action economy lets me get slightly ahead of my failure because of the specialized dice. Otherwise, if it's an armor class 18, I'm just rolling a d20 to beat that 18.
And I will, and everybody knows how, especially in D&D combat, say you got a party of 6 people, and
especially at higher levels.
Higher levels, you're right, especially higher levels. It's like 15 minutes by the time that your round comes again, and you're like, okay, I'm going to cast a spell. Fuck, I missed. I'm done, and it's really disappointing. So, I do totally agree with you on that. My whole point of this is a completely narrative style of play like Masquerade, Vampire the Masquerade, or Werewolf puts a lot of the onus on the game master. And you need to have a very adept game master to make that work.
I think one skill set,
and I'm not saying, what?
One skill set you need a lot of, which is correct with true
is improv
narrative style, is the improv and then the adaptation. That's
not a lot, not very, not everybody has that. And I'm not saying that mechanics can go away if somebody, if you've got a Matt Mercer running a game. I mean, maybe with Matt Mercer they could, but I'm saying they don't have to go away. I like rolling dice. Most people, I think, would agree with me. If I go more than 2 sessions without rolling dice, I'm actually going to be fucking pissed off.
Yeah. No, there's the dice goblin head count will always exceed.
Yeah. So I'm all for the narrative style of play, but I still think that it needs or warrants a strong, well-designed system of mechanics to go with it. And I think they can both complement each other very well and make for a really good game. I think a lot of people still have this dividing line: narrative play versus dice game. And I
think that's always going to be the brass ring.
Yeah.
Yes. To a certain degree.
If it's done well, I don't think it's done well in D&D. I think higher levels starts to suck personally.
Well, higher levels become rote.
Yeah.
You're all, it's.
Once I get, everybody wants I want to level up. I want to level up. What I have found in D&D, I like levels 5 through 10, 8.
5 through 8 are the best.
Yeah.
They're the most fun. I mean, if you go back and look at D&D's heyday of module creation, 70% of their modules were between levels 5 and 8, 7 and 10. Those were always the variations that always seem to do so well. So it's not like this great argument of all these game systems of, are we bringing out systems for the purposes of narration? Are we bringing out systems for the purposes of this, that, or whatever we're bringing out?
Yeah.
But I will say the final add-on to all this is that we have a much richer cultural journey now than we've ever had before, because the cultural journey that historically we've been on, is only gotten better even into our current state of that we play these games in. I mean, Cyberpunk, while not the best PC game in the world, is a fun RPG if you can find a group that's willing to play it, play it out into its fruition.
I want to let you finish, but I had a second point from 10 minutes ago, and I finally remembered what it was. So, but finish your thought.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say another thing that occurs to me. It seems like D&D is trying out of necessity to reinvent themselves because they fucking shot themselves in the foot to basically kind of reinvent their whole the whole fucking thing basically.
Right.
In terms of the rules and whatnot. And then, you know, you could maybe argue that that Darrington and Critical Role are trying to create. It seems like that this is a guess. It seems like their end game is, no pun intended, to have a core set of rules that can be applied to any genre and any theme.
Well, I mean, I could easily argue that the 5e core rules.
Yeah,
I could do that now.
Oh, yeah, totally. The way they've designed it, but we've agreed that it's kind of it's getting stale.
Yeah,
right.
It's getting a little stale. And I think what they've done, they've taken their first, second, and third season development of how they play their campaigns,
mm-hmm.
and you can see in season 3 how they've become much more character driven.
Yes,
like I watched. Up until recently, I watched quite a few.
Well, just to be clear, we're not saying that Critical Role is stale. We're talking about the D&D system.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But what I'm saying is, I think I watched like back-to-back episodes one time, which is 8 hours worth of content in
mm-hmm.
2 episodes,
mm-hmm.
Where Matt spoke for 10% of the time.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing a lot more heavy-driven character narrative that's more persistent in season 3 than ever before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Daggerheart's going to be.
Okay. So with these sets of mechanics, assuming that this is, you know, again, based on the assumption that the industry does not move to a completely narrative style of play and nobody fucking rolls dice anymore. You know, all these ancillary game companies and designers are coming out with rule systems, you know, for this game, rule systems for this game, rule systems for this game.
Right.
You and I, our headspace is kind of the same place. Is kind of reinvent like a GURPS system that is a solid system that can be applied to any genre perfectly.
Right.
And I guess this is a question for you. Are you seeing that in the industry at all, or is everybody still trying? Is everybody still trying to create their special mechanic system?
I think what I'm mostly seeing, and I have a good argument for that. I don't buy that Matt has a room of actors stuff. I play too many games to buy that.
Okay.
But
Fair.
What I'm seeing in the industry, for the most part, the system is ancillary to the enjoyment of what they're writing for the lore. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, Shadowrun's an excellent example of that we've gone over on multiple times.
Yep. Yes, we agree on the lore aspect.
That lore is independent of any mechanic. The reality is the lore sits in front of the mechanic, and you can tell when you read that game. I think what a lot of designers are doing, they're kind of slipping into that habit now of writing these really beautiful lore pieces and then going, okay, how do I play it?
And that's kind of where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's like nobody still, you know, that, like you said, that golden ring is, you know, here's, I'll just say GURPS 2.0. And it is a fantastic system, and you could apply it to, you know, fucking year 5,000 sci-fi shit, or year 0 dinosaur fantasy land. You know what I'm saying? And everything in between. I don't know that anybody is striving for that.
Yeah, it's a good point, because when I read the Cortex system,
and where we both agree on the lore, that can only carry you so far. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to play, for instance, Shadowrun with a really fucking awesome set of mechanics too?
It would be. I agree. It's just chasing that brass ring. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think to the point of narrative style does not abandon dice at all. It just doesn't. It tends to not be super heavy in dice rolls, but all the systems still require an outcome of rolls to resolve what I would call a narrative impasse, right? Because you could have a narrative system and you get to a point and you're like, okay, we're at an impasse. A rule has to kick in. A roll has to help that rule. determine an outcome because of risk of success or failure. So that's always going to be baked into any system that we associate to, whether it's D100, D20, or D6 pool dice, or whatever dice pool system that you might use as an affinity to run a game. To me, that's always.
I think what Jeff and Matt are saying is that with Matt Mercer, I don't think they certainly don't carry him, but I think it makes it easier on him, the level of play that they afford him to be able to use that narrative and why it works so well.
Yeah, but I mean, I would prescribe that their friendship is more important than their profession.
Yeah. I'll give you that. Sure.
Their friendship goes way back deeper than their profession goes. It just so happens that the one skill that actors have is adaptation, right?
Yeah.
They have that skill in volumes, and that's because that's what they do for a living, is they adapt for a living. It's what they do, and they become very good at that adaptation. So while a room full of actors gives the veneer of something being more refined and more catering to a narrative style, if you watch them regularly play, 9 times out of 10, they can't remember a fucking rule to save their lives, including Matt. And they've been playing together for 10 years.
Yeah.
So if you're a professional actor, I don't think that makes you a better gamer. I think it gives you an up on a single skill set, but I don't think it makes you a better player.
But to your point, that skill set that it gives you a leg up on is narrative play.
Right, but not all games are pure narrative play anyways, and they're not going to be. There's always going to be a rule set that's always going to be a defining issue. No, they don't.
And therein is the reason that I asked my original question. Yeah, and that's why that's why I asked my original question, which was a question, not me trying to stump you.
Right.
My original question of, do you feel like as narrative play gains popularity, that the mechanics are going to fall by the wayside? That was.
I think they're going to become a little bit more ancillary as lore continues to get more important, and then the lore helps prop up narrative play. And I think we're going to see dice pool systems get more popular because their action economy still allows for fun mechanics, but it's not a bloated system. I mean, when you try to resolve a D&D combat encounter, it always gets all the limelight, but people sometimes forget there's puzzle encounters, there's diplomatic encounters, there's narrative encounters. There's all these possible encounters that might happen that allow you to leverage your skill sets within your character.
That's funny that you.
It's all of the limelight because of just how bloated and how long it takes.
And it's funny that you say that because having watched Critical Role for a few years now, my mind just fucking goes whoosh. As soon as combat starts. It's great to see Matt's maps and stuff. And
but you're in for a 3-hour rotation.
After a half a round of combat, I'm thinking about, did I need to buy butter or milk or both? I totally agree. I'd rather see them shop for 3 hours. But I think that personally, is a viewer versus player thing. I think players, for the most part, still enjoy combat. Although I will give you that in D&D, sometimes at the end of a 3-hour combat, even as a player, you're like, all right, this is just fucking dragging. So
yeah, well, and and then there's a whole lot of conversations around, do you balance things to make, do things require balance, or does the very essence of randomness give game its wonderfulness? You know what I mean? It's like one thing I do like about playing all of these games, and they have an equal theorem across all their platforms, and that is you can have the best character build, you could have the best opportunity, you could have the best of everything in front of a player, but if they roll like shit all night, they roll like shit all night, and
Yes.
that's going to be their day.
And we all know that dice curses and dice luck is a real thing.
Yeah, I had a player Wednesday in my Divergence game. She rolled 4 natural 20s during combat.
Dude, I've had nights as a DM where I'm constantly critting on my players and doing all, just I can't not roll 20s. And then there are nights, both as a DM and of course as a fucking player, where I've got the fucking Will Wheaton curse so bad. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
That it's almost like I actually leave the session kind of pissed off. And you know what? That actually speaks to your point of degrees of success.
Yeah.
If you have a whole night of shitty dice rolls and you basically do nothing because it's either, like I said, it's binary, it's either on or off, pass, fail.
Right.
That's not fun. If you roll like shit all night.
It starts fun, but then it becomes kind of exhaustive.
I totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is where I'll give you 100%. The narrative play and the degrees of success and the action economy that allows the GM to supplement those mechanics.
So I will say one thing about the Candela Obscura game.
No, it's not life. It's a fucking game. Come on, Jeff.
The Candela game, I do have some muscles to exercise. The pacing's a lot faster, so I've got to get better at pacing. Because it's narrative, I'm not so sure 5 people is a good group anymore. I think 4 is a better group because of the narrative aspect of the game. So as we're starting to see a shift into narrative systems once again. Once again, the narrative system puts a lot of that activity back on the player's shoulders.
Yeah.
Their exercise is hopefully going to make them better players. You know what I mean? Because now the narrative is on them. Like a really good example, 2 of the players in Monday Night, all they were trying to do was to get down to the cellar, but they were sneaking down to the cellar, right? Mm-hmm. So they were describing what they were doing, and because they were describing sneaking, I said, that sounds like a hide. So, give me a hide roll. So they rolled shitty. So the outcome was, because they both rolled 1s and 2s, they tumbled down the stairs, and each of them took a body, which is the way that wounds are done in Obscura. And it derailed their own thought process. You know what I mean? Like to anybody watching, they're like, holy shit, they just fell down a flight of stairs. But if you really watch what happens is I narrate that horrific outcome to them and then stop the narration, they immediately pick up on that and they realize they're derailed. They forgot what they were thinking about. Did somebody hear them? Suddenly the onus is back onto the player to say, shit, I fucked up. Now what do I do?
So it's a much more authentic reaction.
Yeah, it does. And it gives them an opportunity to be better. And I think that's what Matt gets from his friends / players / actors is they've already earned that opportunity to be better through their skill sets. No, the action economy drove the narrative. Those dice rolls aren't mechanics.
No comment.
The action economy, which gives the narrative back to the players, allowed the mechanics and the action economy to improve the narrative. You will never convince me that mechanics and action economy are separate. They just aren't. I've played for 41 years. I run 10 games a week. You will never convince me, because the way I run my action economy in my 10 games is an antithesis to D20. It's not like it.
I thought you said, in your opinion, action economy and mechanics are separate.
They are separate. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Before you said you can't convince me that they
that they're the same.
That they're the same.
that
Okay.
they're the same. The way I run Action Economy and the way that I've played these games, I've never been a player either. So from my side of the table, I have to run everything by Action Economy because it's been my most successful way to run and complete. I've probably completed over 250 campaigns by now through my lifetime of playing Game
I
Busters,
cannot wait to get you
Star Frontiers, and all that shit.
I cannot wait to get you as a player when I finally start my.
I don't know if I'm a good player. I really don't.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
The 4 times I've played in my entire life were unfulfilling, weren't very fun. The game masters always looked at me strange, like they were expecting me to say something, which I never did. You know, I don't know if I'm capable of. I remember Chainmail. That was my very first book because I got it at a garage sale. I have a copy of it over on my shelf.
Jeff, I didn't know you've been playing for that long.
Chainmail is a great intro into this wonderful game.
Do you not want to play?
I don't know if I do. That's a good question. That's a great question for me to always think about. You know, I
thought we were going to stream this game like once every 3rd week.
Well, yeah, but you know, I mean, with your work ethic, I don't think I have to worry about that.
Fuck you, man. Fuck you, because I can't argue that.
You know what? Twisted Duo's right. Doctors make horrible patients. You know?
Yeah. Yep. That's funny. I will play with Jason as player. I will play as obnoxious teammate. Oh fuck! I hate that character. He played that in one of my campaigns, and it was a fantastic rendition.
Yeah. So to sum up the research,
yes,
I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we touched on it a little bit last time. So I'm seeing a trend more towards narrative style.
We have not.
Exactly. A trend towards narrative style.
Okay.
With a gradual easing of, we'll just call it the rules for now, where the rules are becoming a lot more simplistic, a little bit easier to interpret, and having a regular degree of success and failure to allow the progress of the game to kind of be a little unhindered by the absolutism of fail and success would be the way I describe the way things are beginning to move. One of the things that surprised me is that even after COVID, we talked about solo play. There are a couple handfuls of solo play designed RPGs out there that really push up against the barriers of validating, is it really an RPG if it's a solo player? And I think what they're trying to express is that it's an RPG framework, you know, like the framework's there, but it's a solo play game. It's kind of like when you play solitaire, they're using a card framework, you know, but really it's one person playing that game. And the more research I did, the less I felt like it was traditional RPG.
So on that, my opinion is, to me, that's not RPG at all. It's not
and
a
I think they
game.
need to call it something else. And I think
to me, that is an extension of a computer game, a console game, or a computer game. And on one hand, I think it's great to kind of give people the option to play the games that they like, but off of the computer, but they're still playing by themselves. To me, a role-playing game is played with a group of people. And that you will never convince me of.
Yeah, so I think they just need to come up with a new category for it. And one of the things I see them trending towards right now is they simply call it solo play. And they're beginning to drop the nomenclature of RPG. And it's gradually kind of, you know, there's TTRPG, RPG, tabletop war games, and then solo play. I kind of feel like solo play is kind of getting its own category now.
Semantics, and I think it's, you know, if you like that, great. That's not for me.
For some people, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have mental health issues that maybe that's the only way.
Yeah, of course.
You
I
know,
understand that. I
and I
understand
think
that.
COVID, the isolation of COVID, before people understood, you could transcend your Zoom work environment into a remote environment. Yeah, Skyrim, Fallout.
Yes, but yes, but one thing that the community has been touting as of late, and when I say as of late, I mean basically since COVID, is especially now that we've learned you can play remote, is how it can be an outlet
Yeah,
for those people that otherwise would not be able to play together.
very true.
And it can
Yeah.
address a lot of those issues. So to me, again, I'm going to put my old man hat on and say solo RPGs, no matter what you call it, fucking dumb. So, my opinion.
But we did it. We burnt
know.
another hour.
I
Another
know.
hour and 6
So it
minutes.
sounds like we may need to have a part 2 of State of the Game also.
Well, I think what we should do is at mid-year and end of year, right? So mid-year, state of the game, and at the end of the year, state of the game. Just a great way to say,
Sure.
halfway through 2023, where were we? And then at the end of 2023, what did the entire year look like?
I wear a lot of hats, Matt. You should know that by now.
All right, Brian, where can we find you?
All right. You can find me, as always, at RPG&Co on Instagram. That is the best place to reach me. Send me a DM. Talk about shit. I love connecting with people, but, no matter what it's about. Adam Scott of it used to be the D&D Club. It is now the RPG Club. Answered a question today. Somebody asked him about starting a business within the space, and the topic of branding came up and how to set up a business from a brand standpoint. And it got me thinking, not that this was something I haven't thought about, but it was deep in the attic of the cobwebby attic of my mind. And it kind of brought it back to the forefront I'm going to start doing some short little posts about how to get a business going. I know there are a lot of people out there in this space that are trying to, make some money doing it, and I've kind of set myself up to help people get set up for that. So look for that to come also. If it is something that you need some help with, or some ideas, or just some guidance, send me a DM. So like I said, best place to reach me is Instagram, RPG&Co. Jason, what about you?
You can find me at TTRPG, I know, right? RPG Academy over in Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube's. So yeah, head on over to Twitch. It's got or you can go to Linktree. My socials are all over my Twitch channel, so that's always the best place to go to, or go find me on YouTube. I've got all the outbound links from there as well. All my, I'll say 2 of my Sunday games, my Monday night game, and my Tuesday night game are all posted there. Some of my private games, they didn't want to be on YouTube's and Twitch, so we still run those privately. But yeah, if you ever want to have a chat with me about setting up a remote toolbox on playing remotely, just let me know. I'd love to have a conversation about that.
And check out the store. This is all of Jason's content.
Check out the store. We've got lots of fun publications. I think that's the bearded. Is that the bearded stuff?
This
right
is
there?
Bearded Nerd, Brian Gomez.
Bearded Nerd,
I've got to hook up with him too, because he's also got a really good idea for a source book that we've been working on. So that hopefully will be up. I don't want to say soon, because his schedule's been pretty crazy too. But we're shooting for, I think end of July, maybe, but it may slip, so don't quote me on that. But yes,
I usually try to get one done a week.
Yeah,
and I figure by the end of the year you'll have a nice big store full of content that.
Oh, I'm gonna have to completely rearrange the digital content section to categorize this stuff better. But yeah, so check that out, because the stuff that you've been doing is awesome.
So, all right, TPK.
Cool. TPK, tell a story.
Play a game.
And be kind.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
See you next week.